Hey everybody, it is a Blues Day Tuesday here at Born Again to Live. It's Amy, and I'm back. I survived camp, but more importantly, Eric, I survived the storm.
That's right. Yeah, the last broadcast that we had was basically, hey, tornado warnings are going off. We're going to end this episode. So, hey, we made it. Nothing happened at Big Blue or at camp.
Yeah. So. I mean, as a matter of fact, we turned it into a dance party. The beauty of where we're at in this big field, and we're kind of looking west, and you can see like the clouds coming, right? So we're kind of all under the pole barn. It's just drizzling, but we see these storm clouds. We're like, wonder what that's all about. Well, then everybody's phones started going off with the warnings about the tornadoes and the high winds. And we're like, all right, let's move in. So then we, within a moment, my counselors had the whole upstairs, like tables down, just like cleared out so everybody could fit. We had about 45 people crammed in that upper room in the lodge. And then came the tornado warning that had touched down in Star Tannery, where the camp is located. We're like, all right, everybody down to the basement. And so the basement, it's a little bit not cramped, but it's cozy down there. We've got bunk beds, all the people's stuff. So it was like, okay, new plan. We ran downstairs, like, give us 30 seconds. We moved all this stuff out of the way. We had all the kids down in the basement. And it was great, Eric. We played worship music. We had like a little dance circle going. Nice. It was epic. And that was the night that we had the guest pastor from Vibrant City Church here in Winchester. Him and his son were coming to hang out. And so I love that his kind of first real camp experience was like this dance club vibe, because we had the lights off and we're like using our cell phones. And at one point the lights actually flickered off, but thankfully all the power came back on. But yeah, we definitely were just worshiping, dancing, laughing in the eye of that storm. It was such a picture of God's provision. I loved it. That was one of my favorite memories probably of the week, ironically.
Yeah, I hurried up and got off the episode, called Kipton, and I was like, hey, I'm at Big Blue, he's at home, and I'm like, hey buddy, here's the safest place in the house to go. Make sure you go there and stay there. If anything sounds funny or weird or shakes, and I'm like, just go. And he's like, all right, no problem. And so Steve, Chris, and I were actually at Big Blue to have a mentorship meeting about my director job. And we're like, well, there's no point in going out in this, so let's just have the meeting anyway. So we sat there and had this little meeting, and it was kind of fun. It's just, that's where we were at together. It's pretty cool. When ended up, we didn't get much at all at the house. No wind, hardly at all. It just rained.
Yeah.
But it was fun, so it was pretty cool. But out of that came today's topic.
Okay.
And I'll give her a shout out. Lindsay, one of my friends who started listening to the podcast, originally, I was like right in the beginning of this podcast, and she has been a faithful listener every day, and her job has changed recently. She told me that she doesn't drive to work. She works at home now.
Okay.
So she doesn't get to listen as often, regular. Like, she'll listen to all the episodes, but she has to binge listen, I guess.
Right.
Whereas before, every day she was driving to work, and she got the intended way this was supposed to work, and she would listen daily and on a drive. And so I sent her a thing, and I'm like, hey, I'm putting together an outline for the next thing, recording day. Why don't you just send me some of your topics, since you're one of the people who listens all the time? And this was hers, Facing Fear.
Okay.
Because I don't even remember how long ago it was, but her mom passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And she has not stepped in a church sanctuary since her mom's funeral. And ironically, when the flooding in Weston and Buchanan happened, her house was one of the ones affected.
Okay.
And at 2:00 in the morning, she got evacuated by boat to a church sanctuary.
Oh, wow.
Where she had to spend 2 days.
Oh, my goodness.
In this church sanctuary with random strangers that she really didn't know. And her biggest fear was the church sanctuary. So it's like God thrust her into the midst of her fear in that moment. You're afraid you're going to lose your house and all this stuff, but she has avoided this church sanctuary basically since her mom's passing. And God's like, nope, we're just going to put you there.
Well, didn't you see she also had a fear of boats too?
I think she kind of she's like facing, and she said facing your fears. I'm like, I had to get on a boat, and then I had to go to a church sanctuary. I'm like, so either she had a fear of boats or she wasn't really friendly with the whole or it was the flood situation.
Yeah.
Like
Wow.
it seemed to be. So, yeah, that's what we were going to talk about, facing fears, because God kind of shoved her in the midst of hers.
I mean, that's kind of a Jonah story right there. You're not going to come back to my house? All right, I'm going to send a whale to come spit you out right into the sanctuary. Like, that's, wow. That's nuts.
And so as bad as it was at home, I mean, I had a friend that was stuck in Walmart in West Virginia for hours until a boat picked her up and took her to Sheetz. And Sheetz was like, I always said Sheetz is the West Virginia embassy.
Yeah.
And my thing, I told the kids this on the mission trip, every state I go to, you have to have an embassy. Like, it's a place where you feel the safest.
Right.
Like the U.S. Embassy in every other country.
Right.
That's your safe zone. So every state, you have to have a spot. Mine is Sheetz. So Sheetz is my embassy. Like, if I know I need something and I'm going to go to Sheetz, I'm safe.
That's true.
And ironically, in this situation, they were taken from a Walmart to Sheetz. And I'm like, see, I told you all along. That's the embassy of West Virginia.
Jeez. I mean, you know, it's my preferred spot for, like, if I'm going somewhere in the middle of the night, I know there's always people there. I can sit there and eat and not be freaked out. The bathrooms are clean. Like, yeah, I'm a big fan of Sheetz. Hey, they could support the podcast because we can plug them a lot.
You feel safer there than at most gas stations.
You do so.
And sorry, I went to a Wawa's one time and I did not feel safe. So it's not my safe zone.
All right, and it's the Sheetz. Okay.
But if you don't have a Sheetz, I don't know where we go.
I mean, really, I guess to a sanctuary.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, sometimes that's the thing about fears, though, right? Like, we don't choose to deal with them, but we are forced to face them.
Yeah.
So we're rarely prepared when that happens, too.
Yeah, usually your fears will come about, like, you'll have that fear and you're like, you do everything to stay away from that fear.
Oh, yeah.
But then sometimes you round a corner and smack that fear right in your face and you're like, oh, now what do I got to do to deal with it?
Yep.
And so we're going to go through scripturally God talking about what fear is and how to deal with fear and actually where we should put fear in its place. And then just talk a little bit about why God throws us in the midst of it.
All right, let's go. So our first reading is going to be from Isaiah 41. And you have verse 10 here, which is the crux. But we're going to back up because I like a little bit of context. We're going to start at 8 and go down to 13. And, you know, this is God addressing Israel. But, like, you know, basically when he says this kind of stuff, it's his children. We are his children as well. But he says, but you, Israel, my servant, Jacob, whom I have chosen, you descendants of Abraham, my friend. I took you from the ends of the earth, from the furthest corners I called you. I said, you are my servant. I have chosen you and have not rejected you. So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. All who rage against you will surely be ashamed and disgraced. Those who oppose you will be as nothing and perish. Though you search for your enemies, you will not find them. Those who wage war against you will be as nothing at all. For I am the Lord your God, who takes hold of your right hand and says to you, do not fear, I will help you. Oh, that's so good, Eric.
Yeah, that I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. I love that. Just that feeling that I get from that.
Yeah.
Like, even in the worst conditions on the ocean, think about, like, God's got the boat in his hand. And even if it's rocking, he's got you. You're safe. And,
yes.
When I was talking to Lindsay about her experience, she's like, I haven't been in this sanctuary since my mom's passing. And I believe it's been like 2 years or so. And, like, so she's been dealing with this. But she's like, and everybody in there were so nice, and they were complete strangers, and, like, they were so kind and caring. And I'm thinking, yep, that sounds like God. You know, take your giant fear, throw you in the midst of it, and then surround you with the best people you're ever going to find. And, like, why am I afraid of this place?
Right.
Like, that's what he does. And that's what that verses say. Like, as bad as I'm afraid of something, God's got me the whole time. Why?
Yes. Absolutely. Well, and I think that's why I wanted to go back to kind of that earlier part, because, you know, verse 10 starts, so do not fear. But the so is kind of buttoning up these, you know, what was right before it. And it's God saying, I have chosen you and have not rejected you. So do not fear. Meaning, God's right in the midst of your life. He's right there with you. That is why we are told not to fear. So do not fear, for I am with you. And I don't know, Eric, like this could be a whole sidebar topic, obviously. And I've been thinking obviously a lot about this too, but is the fear of her going back into that church sanctuary? Was it the fear of having those feelings again and going through that grieving process again? Or is it the fear that maybe she hasn't even really begun the grieving and she's avoiding it? Avoidance is quite the tactic. Denial and avoidance, those are two things that we do use that to protect ourselves. Like, there's nothing wrong with it, but at some point you run out of time. Yeah. So, girlfriend, if you are grieving your mom, I am right there with you. And, I'd love to spend some time on this topic, Eric, because the last couple of months since my mom's passing, I have learned a lot about grief, a lot more than when my dad died, even, because there's something about being an orphan that it wasn't there before. It wasn't there in the mix 10 years ago when I lost my dad. But now, and you're on the other side of the fear of being the orphan, of losing someone you love. You're on that other side, but it's a whole nother animal. And so maybe we can take some time in the near future and talk about grief. I'm not ready just yet.
I'd say absolutely. That's one that even I know Susan had talked about, like she wanted to come back for that up there. Maybe I'll just step out and be like, y'all handle this, because
you're too happy, Eric. Go away.
And I'm a compartmentalizer. Like I listen to Jonathan's, he's talking about masking. I'm a compartmentalizer. Yeah. And so like everybody thinks I'm so cold sometimes when I'm dealing with death and stuff, but I compartmentalize. Like, I'm the guy who can just be like, I got to do this.
Yeah.
So that's over there. I can do this. And and people don't think that I feel, I think. Like, I'll go into my granddad's funeral and not cry and talk. And they're like, he's not okay. And I'm like, no, I dealt with that over there.
Yeah.
Here, I'm here.
Yeah.
And people, again, they get this, they get that about you and you're like, they're cold or whatever. But you're not. Like, I have a lot of emotions. I'm deep in like my emotional path and I could cry at any point. But I can also compartmentalize and be like, on the mission trip, I quoted the Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, where the cop goes, that's enough to make a grown man cry. But then he sucks the tear up and he goes, not today. Like, in my mind, that's compartmentalizing of like, I have a message for you and I'm not going to cry about it because that's the message I have for you.
Yeah.
And so that's my mentality in life. And yes, I agree. Grief is hard and I go through it just as much as everybody, but I'm the kind of person that it doesn't all blend together. So like I go to work and I'm like, that part stops there.
Yeah.
And I just compartmentalize so much. So I don't know, maybe I'm different.
No, I mean, I definitely, I have been accused of being robotic as well, because I do that as well. I think men are actually better at it, compartmentalizing. When I was in a class, I don't know if it's a psychology class, but men operate in different channels. And, but anyway, I guess what I want to say about going back to kind of the fear of walking into that sanctuary, like, where did this fear originate? There are those people that fear walking into the Lord's house because they won't be wanted. Maybe they've done too much. God doesn't love them. For Lindsay, she didn't want to go back into the sanctuary because she didn't want to get hit with that grief and that hurt and that pain again. I think that's a big step in the whole fear factor to begin with is, ask yourself, why am I fearing this? What is there? Because sometimes if you can really break down the reasons and the logic, and you have to be very honest with yourself, right? Why am I afraid of going into the house of God? Maybe because I'm afraid God's going to call me to do something. Maybe I'm afraid I'm going to be laid out in the spirit and I'm going to wake up this butterfly in this born again life. And I don't want that. I'd rather just be here in my misery. Like, it takes honesty to really get through some of this stuff. And so I guess, that would be sort of one of my questions, but certainly being able to identify the source of that fear. Like, you can be afraid of whatever you want, but then you really need a reason to back that up. Why? Where's the why? And Eric, I've been afraid of spiders my whole life. Like as a kid, like I would just assume just open the door and roll out of a car going 80 miles down the highway, then sit in the back with this tiny little bug like crawling around because I was terrified of them. And one day I just had to walk through the logic with a friend of mine. She's like, Amy, that's absurd. You have done some of the craziest things I know. You have vertically hiked 1,000 feet up in the air. Like, you do all these things and you're not scared of any of it. Why are you letting yourself be scared of a bug?
Yeah.
And I'm like, and it's like, yes, I am 600 times larger than that spider, even though some of them, they get big.
Yeah.
So
Australia.
I mean, right? I haven't been there, but no. Yeah. So then you have to ask yourself, well, why?
Yeah.
And I didn't really have a good enough reason why. I'm like, I don't know, they're just creepy. Okay, well, they're not going to hurt you. They're not going to, drag you out into a dark alley. They can't do that. They're going to bite you. That's all they can do and look scary.
Well, it's perspective. I mean, that's what God's talking about here in this scripture too, is perspective. If like you could be scared of everything, but if you put it that God's with you at all times and he's going to uphold you and he's going to protect you and he's going to be with you, it makes a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like the perspective of God is over all and you're just a blip on the dot and yet he's still with you.
Yes.
That helps you face that fear just a little bit easier. And again, perspective on all things is important because as most people think that they're the center of the world, but when you look at God's word, like you're just a blip.
Yeah.
Like as bad as that sounds, like as important as each life is, you're just this little speck, needle in the haystack, basically, of life. Yet God loves you and cares about you enough that he did everything for you, but he also did it for everybody else.
Yeah.
Like as much as you want to seclude yourself and think I'm the most important person in the world, everybody around you is the same importance.
Yeah. I mean, I've always said this. It is the most comforting thought and it is the most infuriating thought at the same time. As I like to say, we might not be, or we're all in the same water, but we're in different boats.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's the thing. We're all going through something. And, I'm always reminded of that, Eric, every time I'm working with young people with everything I've been going through, I have to stop. And I heard a lot of stories this past week. We just finished our adventure camp and we got to spend 4 days and nights with these teens. And you get a lot more just time to talk with them. And man, it was so heartbreaking when Pastor Joe he talked about this place where he was before and just all the mental illness that was, kind of in this town. Like just there was a lot of depression, a lot of homelessness. It was awful. But that was where God called him. And he mentioned about, he says, if you really want to be a light in this world, he said, here's some things you can do. And one of the top things he said was be a good mom, be a good dad, like something as obviously simple, yet we don't put enough importance on that kind of stuff. And as he was talking about the effects of all these kids growing up without good parents and role models, I'm counting the kids in the room, Eric, and I'm like, whoa. I mean, out of 25, 26 kids that were in the room, all but maybe 2 live with their biological, still married parents. It broke my heart. A lot of them are with their grandparents. A lot of them are just on their own. It was, it's terrifying. But
it is. It is.
But God is whatever it is we're going through, right? God is with us in all of it.
Yeah.
All right, so now it's time for my life verse, right?
That's right.
Amy's life.
If you're dealing with fear, you have to include this.
You definitely do. Why am I not? Oh, I'm not in the right verse. I have to read it in case I mess it up. For the Spirit of God. Wait, I'm in the. It's just NIV version, huh? Okay, I've got some other version memorized in my head. This is NIV version. For the Spirit God gave us does not make us timid, but gives us power, love, and self-discipline.
Yeah, the New King James is, for God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and self.
That's the one I like. Yeah, the New King James. Self-discipline, also self-control, but I like a sound mind because you can't have self-discipline, self-control without that sound mind. So yeah, that is, and every time I'm feeling fearful, I have to remember that. That's why it's my life verse. I'll just say it to myself over and over again. If I'm feeling fearful, it's not from God. All good things come from God. fear is the thing that keeps us. I mean, gosh, psychologists will say our two motivators in all of our world is fear and love. Everything stems from those two things, right? Greed comes from this fear that we don't have enough. Hate comes from this fear that somebody else is going to, hurt you or harm you or take something away from you. Like, fear is the crux of all of the downfall of man, quite frankly. You can base it all the way back to fear. So knowing that fear does not come from God, then when I feel it, I have to just push it away and just tell it to go. Like, in the Bible, when I think Jesus was talking about, you just have to tell things like to flee in the name of Jesus, right? Like, the devil must flee in the name. So it's like fear in the name of Jesus, you're gone. Like, I don't know what it is I'm afraid of right now, but it's funny. We just had this conversation probably during camp, but a lot of the kids are afraid of the dark, right? And I was telling them, I said, I make a habit of walking in the dark. And it gets dark up there. Like, there is not a single street light. There's nothing to lighten the path in the woods. And, but some of the trails are wider. I can feel my way around it. You can sometimes see just enough.
Yeah.
But much like, Psalm 23, sometimes those shadows, right? The shadows of death are actually scarier than what is actually there. So I told the kids, I said, I make a discipline of walking in the dark by myself. That doesn't mean I'm not afraid, because I don't know what was that noise? What's right here? What are those green eyeballs looking out at me? Like, you see stuff like that in the dark. I said, I like just to feel that uncomfortableness, because that is when I know I'm leaning into God, because there's nothing else keeping me on my feet right now other than just like, all right, God, I'm trusting you right now. I'm trusting you right now. And, and the more you do that, it's kind of like a spiritual discipline. The more you let yourself be a little uncomfortable and be a little fearful, but you're like, I'm going to trust God. I'm going to trust God. It gets easier.
Yeah.
Like, it is like growing a muscle. It gets easier. So I told the kids, I'm like, man, just spend a little time in the dark. Like, it's not going to kill you.
Yeah.
Usually.
You're funny. You said it's like you're building a muscle. My son came to me the other day and said, Dad, I watched a video the other day, and do you realize how muscles are formed? And I'm like, well, I mean, yeah, kind of. And he's like, you actually have to tear the muscle so it rebuilds bigger. He's like, so every day you have to stretch and tear those muscles to get the bigger muscles and stronger muscles. And I'm like, okay, so it's one of those, you have to bust through your fear.
Yeah.
To build that relationship with God that, hey, that's something we need.
Yeah.
I don't know. You want to come back tomorrow and talk some more about this?
Absolutely. Let's do it. This is a good topic, Eric. We haven't talked about this in a while.
So do not fear. We will be back tomorrow.
Bye, guys. Love you.
Yeah.